There was a man who spent the first 26 years of his life going absolutely nowhere. He was broke, in debt, miserable, and trapped in a job he hated. He had failed out of school, couldn't keep a steady relationship, and had already cycled through more disappointments than most people twice his age. By every measurable standard, the world had written him off, and he had almost written himself off too. Then one night, a friend handed him a worn copy of a book called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. He didn't read it carefully at first. He skimmed it the way desperate people skim things, searching for a shortcut, a loophole, some trick that would make the pain go away. But something in those pages stopped him cold. A single idea lodged itself into his mind like a splinter. The thoughts a person holds in their mind, with feeling and faith, will eventually manifest in physical form. He didn't fully understand it. But something deep inside him said, "This is real." Within 1 year, that same man went from earning $6,000 annually to over $175,000. Within a few years, he was a millionaire. He went on to coach executives, entrepreneurs, and world leaders. He traveled to over 100 countries. He spent the next 6 decades of his life studying, teaching, and proving that same principle over and over again. That man was Bob Proctor. And what he discovered in those first pages, what changed the entire trajectory of his existence, wasn't luck, wasn't talent, and wasn't circumstance. It was the secret. Today, you're going to understand exactly what he found in the first 20 minutes of that revelation, and why it has the power to change your life too. Welcome to the teachings of Bob Proctor. If this is your first time here, you've arrived at exactly the right moment, because what we're about to explore together is not motivation. It's not positive thinking in the fluffy, feel-good sense of the term. What Bob Proctor spent his life teaching is something far more precise, far more grounded, and far more transformative than anything you may have encountered before. Bob Proctor didn't stumble onto the secret by accident. He was a student of it for over 60 years. He studied the work of Napoleon Hill, Wallace D. Wattles, Thomas Troward, and dozens of other thinkers who understood that there are invisible laws governing human experience, laws just as consistent and just as real as the law of gravity, and that the people who understand and apply these laws will always outperform those who don't, regardless of background, education, or starting conditions. In 2006, Bob Proctor appeared in the now legendary film The Secret, produced by Rhonda Byrne. That film introduced millions of people to the concept of the law of attraction. But for those who paid close attention, the most powerful ideas in the film weren't the broad strokes about thinking positively. They were the specific, structured explanations that Bob Proctor provided, because Bob wasn't just repeating a nice concept. He was teaching a system. In the first 20 minutes of The Secret, Bob Proctor lays a foundation that most viewers absorb emotionally but rarely unpack intellectually. That's what today's video is designed to do. We're going to go deep into what was said, what was meant, and, most importantly, what it means for you and the life you are currently living. You will learn why your thoughts are not just ideas floating in your head. You will understand what the law of attraction actually is at a scientific and spiritual level. You will begin to see how the images you hold in your mind are broadcasting a frequency into the universe, and how that frequency is already shaping your results, whether you're aware of it or not. This is not theory. This is how reality works. Bob Proctor knew it. He proved it. And now, it's your turn. Let's begin. Bob Proctor opens the first 20 minutes of The Secret with a declaration that most people initially dismiss as poetic rather than literal. There is a law, a single all-encompassing law, that governs the entire universe, including every experience in your life. He is not speaking metaphorically. He is speaking with the precision of a man who has spent decades studying how reality actually operates. The law of attraction, as Bob explains it, is not a new idea. It has been written about, encoded, and whispered through the great philosophical, spiritual, and scientific traditions of human history. From the ancient Hermetic texts to the writings of modern physicists, the message has always been the same, like attracts like. But here is where most people get confused. They assume like attracts like means that happy people attract happy things and sad people attract sad things in some vague, emotional sense. Bob is pointing to something far more structured than that. He is pointing to a law as reliable as mathematics. Everything in the universe, every object, every person, every thought, is made of energy. Energy vibrates at specific frequencies. And the fundamental operating principle of the universe is that energies of similar frequencies are drawn toward one another. This is not philosophy. This is physics. When Bob Proctor appears in The Secret and looks directly into the camera, he says something that should stop every viewer in their tracks. The law of attraction is always working, whether you believe in it or understand it or not. This is the most important statement in the entire film, because it removes the element of belief from the equation. The law doesn't require your permission to operate. Most people spend their lives as unconscious participants in this law. They attract results they don't want: financial struggle, poor relationships, missed opportunities, not because the law is failing them, but because they haven't learned to consciously direct the frequencies they are emitting. Bob uses a simple but penetrating analogy. Your mind is like a broadcasting tower. Every thought you think sends a signal out into the universe. Every emotion you feel amplifies that signal. And the universe, like a perfectly obedient mirror, reflects that signal back to you in the form of circumstances, people, and events. The word secret in the title is deliberate. For centuries, this knowledge was considered esoteric, reserved for the educated elite, the initiated few who understood how to leverage invisible forces. Bob's mission was to democratize this knowledge, to take it out of the libraries of mystics and put it in the hands of ordinary people. Understanding the law of attraction begins with accepting one deeply uncomfortable truth. Your current life is a perfect reflection of your dominant thoughts. Not your occasional thoughts. Not your wishes. Your dominant mental and emotional patterns. Look around you. What you see is what you've been broadcasting. This is not judgment. This is empowerment. Because if your thoughts created your current reality, then new thoughts can create a new one. That is the promise. That is the secret. One of the earliest and most electrifying moments in The Secret is when Bob Proctor leans forward and says with total conviction, "Thoughts are things." This is not a motivational slogan. It is a statement of metaphysical fact that, once truly understood, changes the way you move through every moment of your day. Thought is not a passive wisp of imagination that evaporates once it leaves your conscious awareness. According to the principles Bob Proctor spent his life teaching, a thought is a real energetic event. It has structure. It has frequency. And when it is charged with emotion, it has the power to influence the physical world. Bob often referenced the work of scientists and researchers who confirmed that every thought a human being thinks produces a measurable electromagnetic field. Your brain is not merely a processing organ, it is a transmitter. Every time you think, you are broadcasting. The key distinction Bob makes is between thinking about something and truly seeing it. He explains that most people allow their minds to be dominated by what already exists in their environment. Their current bank balance, their current relationships, their current health. And because they think about what is, they continue to attract more of what is. The shift happens when you begin to think with intention. When you deliberately construct an image in your mind of what you want, not what you have, not what seems realistic, but what you truly desire, and you hold that image with feeling and with faith, you begin to emit a completely different frequency. Bob draws a clear distinction between the conscious and subconscious minds. The conscious mind is where you originate thoughts deliberately. But the subconscious mind is where those thoughts become belief. And it is the subconscious that controls the vast majority of your behavior, your habits, and ultimately, your results. This is why willpower alone almost never works. You can consciously decide to change, but if your subconscious mind holds a conflicting belief, a belief formed years ago, perhaps in childhood, that belief will overpower your conscious intention every single time. Bob's life work was centered on teaching people how to reprogram that subconscious layer. Thoughts held with intensity and repetition eventually sink from the conscious mind into the subconscious. Once embedded there, they begin to operate automatically. They shape perception, filter opportunities, and direct behavior, all below the level of conscious awareness. This is why successful people seem to attract opportunities effortlessly. Their subconscious is aligned with their vision. When Bob says, "Thoughts become things," he is describing a process that has a beginning, a middle, and an end. The thought is the seed. The emotion is the water. The belief is the root. And the physical manifestation, the money, the relationship, the achievement, is the fruit. You cannot rush the process. But you can trust it. Everything that has ever been created by a human being began as a thought in someone's mind. Every building, every business, every invention, every relationship. If you can hold an image clearly enough, long enough, and with enough feeling, the universe has no choice but to deliver the physical equivalent. Bob Proctor introduces one of the most transformative concepts in the entire first segment of The Secret when he begins to talk about frequency. This is where the teaching moves from inspirational to operational, from something you feel to something you can actually use. Every human being, in every moment, is emitting a vibrational frequency. This frequency is determined primarily by how you feel, not by what you think in isolation, but by the emotional charge attached to your thoughts. Emotion is the amplifier. Without it, thought is a whisper. With it, thought becomes a shout that the universe cannot ignore. Bob explains that feelings are the language of the universe. When you feel joy, love, gratitude, or excitement, you are emitting a high frequency. And that frequency acts like a magnet, drawing toward you people, circumstances, and opportunities that vibrate at that same level. Conversely, when you feel fear, resentment, anxiety, or lack, you emit a low frequency, and the universe delivers experiences that match it. This is why the rich tend to get richer and the poor tend to struggle with cycles that feel impossible to escape. It is not a moral judgment. It is a vibrational pattern in motion. This is also why Bob Proctor was so insistent that gratitude is not merely a nice spiritual practice, it is a frequency tool. When you feel genuinely grateful, you are operating at a high vibrational frequency. And from that frequency, more things to be grateful for are inevitably drawn to you. The first 20 minutes of The Secret challenge you to do something radically simple but profoundly difficult, to feel good before the evidence arrives. To feel the joy of the thing you want as if it is already happening. To refuse to let your current circumstances dictate your emotional state. Bob Proctor often referred to this as living in the feeling of the wish fulfilled. This concept, originally articulated by Neville Goddard, was central to Bob's teaching. You do not wait until you are successful to feel successful. You feel successful now, and that feeling draws the success to you. The challenge, of course, is that your environment constantly bombards you with evidence of what is rather than what could be. Your bank statement, your relationships, your health, they all speak loudly about your present reality. Learning to feel beyond that evidence is the spiritual and psychological practice at the heart of The Secret. Bob describes the frequency of desire as one of the most powerful forces available to a human being. Desire, when it is clear, specific, and emotionally charged, acts as a signal that the law of attraction must respond to. The universe does not evaluate the worthiness of your desire. It simply responds to the frequency of it. The invitation here is not to manufacture false happiness. It is to find, genuinely find, any thought that produces a positive feeling and to practice it repeatedly until it becomes your dominant frequency. From that place, everything changes. Among the most quoted and most misunderstood passages in The Secret is the three-step process that Bob Proctor and the other teachers describe. Ask, believe, receive. These three words sound simple enough to dismiss. But when Bob breaks them down, each step reveals a depth that most people have never encountered. The first step, ask, is perhaps the one people most overlook because it seems obvious. But Bob is not talking about casual wishing or vague hoping. Asking, in this context, means getting crystal clear about what you want. Not approximately what you want. Not a general category of improvement. The precise, specific, vivid image of the life you intend to live. Bob Proctor taught that the universe, like any great organizing system, cannot respond to confusion. If you send a confused signal, you get confused results. Most people live in confusion because they spend more mental time thinking about what they don't want than what they do want. And the universe does not hear the word, don't. It responds to the image, not the negation. The second step, believe, is where most people's process breaks down. Believing is not the same as hoping. Hoping contains doubt. Belief, true belief, is the absence of doubt. It is the state of knowing, with complete internal certainty, that what you have asked for is on its way to you. This is the most difficult step, and it requires conscious, disciplined mental work. Bob was clear that belief is not a feeling that arrives spontaneously. It is built. It is constructed through repetition, through affirmation, through visualization, and through the deliberate act of choosing, again and again, to hold your vision in your mind rather than your current circumstances. Belief is a practice before it becomes a state. The third step, receive, is about aligning your actions and your energy with the expectation of delivery. It means behaving as someone who has already received what they asked for. It means making decisions from that identity. It means noticing and acting on the inspired ideas and open doors that the universe places in your path. Bob emphasizes that receiving is active, not passive. The law of attraction does not deliver your desires while you sit on the couch. It delivers them through action, specifically through inspired action. The difference between inspired action and desperate action is frequency. Inspired action flows from belief. Desperate action flows from fear. A critical insight Bob offers in this segment is that you don't need to know how the desire will manifest. The how is the universe's job. Your job is the what and the why. When you try to control the mechanism of delivery, you introduce doubt, and doubt disrupts the frequency of belief. This is one of the great paradoxes of the teaching. The more tightly you try to control how something will happen, the more you block it from happening. Release the how. Trust the law. Focus on the vision, the feeling, and the action that is directly in front of you. Ask with clarity. Believe without condition. Receive with openness. These are not 3 easy steps. They are a lifetime of practice. But every journey begins with a single, clear, committed request, and the courage to believe that the universe is already answering. If there is one concept that separates Bob Proctor's teaching from generic positive thinking, it is his sophisticated and rigorous understanding of the subconscious mind. In the first 20 minutes of The Secret, he begins to introduce an idea that he would spend decades unpacking. Most people are not in control of their own minds. The subconscious mind operates like a vast, extraordinarily powerful computer program running beneath the surface of your conscious awareness. It was programmed, largely without your consent, during the first 7 years of your life, through observation, repetition, and emotional experience. And it has been running that original program ever since. Bob explains that the subconscious cannot distinguish between a real experience and a vividly imagined one. This is why visualization works. When you repeatedly imagine a desired outcome with enough emotional intensity, your subconscious begins to accept that image as reality, and then works tirelessly to align your behavior, your perception, and your circumstances to match it. The problem is that most people's subconscious programs are not serving them. They carry deep-seated beliefs about money, about their worth, about what is possible for someone like them, beliefs that were installed before they had the capacity to evaluate them. And these beliefs silently govern every major decision they make. Bob Proctor often described the conscious mind as the captain and the subconscious mind as the crew. The captain gives the orders, but it is the crew that actually runs the ship. If the crew has been trained to sail in circles, no matter how clearly the captain shouts, "Go forward," the ship goes in circles. The work of conscious reprogramming is the work of giving your crew new orders, repeatedly, persistently, and with the emotion that makes those orders stick. This is why affirmations, when used properly, are not just self-help fluff. They are a reprogramming tool. Repeated with emotion and conviction, they can replace old, limiting beliefs with new, empowering ones. Bob also teaches that the subconscious mind operates through images, not words. This is why visualization is more powerful than affirmation alone. When you create a clear, vivid mental picture of your desired outcome and you return to it daily with feeling, you are speaking directly to the part of the mind that actually controls your life point. One of the most striking things Bob observed across decades of coaching is that high achievers in every field share one common trait: an ability to hold a clear image of their goal in their mind, consistently, in the face of contradictory evidence. They are not delusional. They are disciplined. They have learned to govern their subconscious input. The great news, the genuinely liberating news, is that the subconscious can be reprogrammed at any age, at any stage of life. It does not care how old you are or how long you have held a limiting belief. Given consistent new input, it will change. It must. That is how it is designed. Understanding the subconscious is not an academic exercise. It is the foundation of every lasting transformation. If your life is not where you want it to be, the answer is not working harder on the outside. The answer is working consistently and patiently on the inside, until the inside matches the vision. Bob Proctor returns again and again throughout the first section of The Secret to a principle that is both simple and devastating in its implications. Whatever you place your consistent attention on grows. Focus is not neutral. It is creative. Where your attention goes, energy flows, and results follow. This principle has a dark side that most people discover only in retrospect. When you focus on a problem, really obsess over it, replay it, analyze it from every angle, you are feeding it energy. You are broadcasting its frequency. And the law of attraction, indifferent to your suffering, delivers more of what you're focused on. This is why people who are deeply in debt so often find themselves spiraling further into debt. It is not because they are irresponsible. It is because their dominant mental focus is on lack, on shortage, on the terrifying gap between what they have and what they owe. And that focus, held with emotion, is a signal the universe honors. Bob teaches that the antidote is not to deny your current reality. Pretending your problems don't exist is not wisdom, it is avoidance. The antidote is to shift your dominant focus. To spend more mental time with the solution than with the problem. To see the vision more often than you see the obstacle. This is a discipline, not a disposition. It is a trained habit of mind. And like any discipline, it is uncomfortable at first. Your brain, wired for survival, will resist it. It will pull your attention back to the threat, to the unpaid bill, to the failing relationship, to the diagnosis. Reclaiming your focus is the ongoing work. Bob often recommended a specific, practical tool for shifting focus, a gratitude list. Not a performative gratitude list, written because someone told you to, but a genuine, felt exercise of finding what is already working, already good, already abundant in your life. That emotional shift changes your frequency immediately. He also taught the power of focusing on the feeling of the desired outcome rather than the mechanics. When you visualize your goal, your dream home, your thriving business, the version of yourself that is healthy and free, don't just see it. Feel it. The feeling is the transmission. The image is the vehicle. What you focus on expands not only in the abstract sense of vibrational attraction, but in the very concrete neurological sense of perception. When your brain is tuned to a particular frequency, it filters your environment for evidence of it. This is why people who are looking to buy a red car suddenly see red cars everywhere. They were always there, but now they're noticed. Opportunity works the same way. Ideas work the same way. Solutions work the same way. When your dominant focus is aligned with your vision, your mind begins to notice, seemingly out of nowhere, the people, resources, and paths that lead you toward it. This is not magic. It is selective perception amplified by belief. What you focus on today is creating your tomorrow. Not eventually. Not someday. Today. Every minute you spend thinking thoughts of abundance, capability, and possibility is a minute the universe is receiving and responding to. Guard your focus the way you guard your most valuable possession, because it is. The final and perhaps most personally important theme that Bob Proctor introduces in the first 20 minutes of The Secret is the idea that abundance is not an accident, an exception, or a reward for the few. Abundance is the natural state of the universe, and it is your birthright as a human being to participate in it fully. Bob often challenged his audiences with a single pointed question: how much do you want? Not, what do you think you can realistically get? Not, what do people like you usually achieve? But what do you actually want, without editing yourself, without shrinking your vision to fit your current belief system? Most people, Bob observed, have never given themselves permission to want at the highest level. They have been conditioned by environment, by education, by the well-meaning but limiting voices of people who loved them, to keep their dreams realistic. And in doing so, they have sentenced themselves to a life far below what they were capable of living. The first 20 minutes of The Secret are, at their core, a permission slip. A declaration that the universe is not stingy, not punishing, and not randomly distributing favor among the deserving few. The universe is abundant. It is responsive. And it is waiting for you to make your request with clarity and conviction. Bob Proctor's own story is the most powerful proof of this principle. The man who failed at virtually everything in the first quarter of his life went on to build a legacy of teaching that touched millions of people across the globe. Not because he was exceptional. Because he decided, and then held that decision without wavering. He teaches that the life you were born to live is not some idealized fantasy reserved for people luckier or smarter or more connected than you. It is a life that is available to you right now, through the application of laws that are already operating in your experience, whether consciously or unconsciously. The difference between people who live extraordinary lives and those who don't is not talent, luck, or circumstance. It is the consistent, disciplined application of these principles. Asking clearly, believing completely, receiving gratefully, and adjusting continuously. It is a practice, not a gift. Bob also emphasizes that the desire to grow, to expand, to achieve more, is itself a signal from your deepest nature. You are not designed for stagnation. Every authentic desire you feel is evidence of a capacity within you that is waiting to be expressed. The universe does not plant desires in you that it has no intention of helping you fulfill. The life you imagine, the version of you that is free, fulfilled, purposeful, and prosperous, is not a fantasy. It is a blueprint. And the universe is the most skilled contractor that has ever existed. Give it the blueprint. Trust the process. And get out of the way long enough for the building to begin. This is where your 20 minutes end, and your transformation begins. Bob Proctor lived what he taught. He proved that a human being can rewrite their story at any age, from any starting point, using nothing but their mind, their will, and their willingness to align with the laws that govern all of creation. The secret is not out there. It never was. It has always been within you. Bob Proctor used to say that the greatest discovery a human being can make is the discovery of their own mind, and the realization that they have the power to direct it deliberately. The first 20 minutes of The Secret are not an introduction to a film. They are an invitation to a completely different way of living. An invitation to move from being a passive recipient of circumstances to an active, conscious architect of your own reality. Everything you have heard today, the law of attraction, the power of thought, the frequency of emotion, the discipline of belief, these are not abstract concepts. They are tools. And like all tools, they only work when you pick them up and use them. The question Bob Proctor always returned to was this: what do you really want? Not what seems possible. Not what others expect. What do you, at the deepest level of your being, truly desire? Because that desire is not a distraction from your purpose. It is your purpose speaking to you in the language of longing. The law of attraction is already working. The only question is whether it is working for you or against you. And the answer to that question depends entirely on the thoughts you choose to hold, the feelings you choose to nurture, and the vision you choose to pursue. If this video has lit something in you, even a small spark, honor that. Write down what you want. Really write it down. Read it every day. Visualize it every morning. Feel it as though it has already happened. And then trust the law. Bob Proctor didn't teach hope. He taught certainty, the certainty that a person aligned with these principles cannot fail. We'll see you in the next video. Keep the vision alive.